Yeah, I'm losing my edge.
Pete, today we're going to talk about price action opportunities. Price action is a phrase that a lot of people use. It can mean so many different things, similar to scalping, sector rotation, stock market correction, all these different things that people kind of attribute to different scenarios. But, you know, I just want to look at here to start the week off where we've been, where we're going, how we're going to trade both of those ideas in tandem, because that is truly at the core of trading price action to me, right. Pete, is just a phrase that means, okay, using whatever analysis you attribute, whether it's technical, fundamental, whatever, it's a matter of taking in historical context, taking in the current relationship of the markets to that historical context, and then attributing a trade opportunity to that. Thankfully, markets have been moving a little bit in my stead. You've got a metals market that has really fallen out of bed here. The small technology product, a little bit of shakeup, not at those highs that they were at the end of August, early September here, but they haven't come back to earth necessarily, still up 20% on the year. Small stock 75 saw a little bit more of a release last week amid some stock market volatility, back to negative on the year in the small stock 75. Remember, that's an index that takes into account technology, but technology is only a fifth of that index, with energy, industrials, right, and some other markets, materials, taking in financials. I'll just name all of them at this point.
Two distinct slices. You're absolutely right, which is what we want as traders. I want the distinct slices. I want the divergence, but all of our pairs for the most part live within an asset class. And those are usually, we want the correlation, then we want the opportunity. And in this case, and I was building these out for a group actually Thursday or Friday afternoon at 3:30. Liquidity still looked great. And, putting them on there, the ability to, in 3 sentences, say, they're all dollar-wide ticks. They're all one-to-one spread opportunities, and the liquidity is great. Boom. That's all you have to do. There is, unfortunately for you with a math degree, there is no math. It's just trade.
I know. We're slowly decreasing the value of this degree that I'm still paying for. To every freaking month they knock on my door for more money, and now you don't even need the mathematics degree that I'm paying for. But yeah, just to round this out, we saw that purple line in the small dollar looks like nothing, but keep in mind that foreign exchange products move a lot less on a percentage basis. So what you are actually seeing here is a bounce off of the lows in the dollar, actually to about unchanged on the year. We're going to get all into what that looks like in actual prices, though, and we're going to start with the Stixx product. Seen a lot of $1 days, $1 plus. Actually, this morning, Stixx was up about a dollar, has come back to being up only about 20, 30 cents as of right now. And that, to me, Pete, is great short-term opportunity. In the last 10 days, to see all of these lines going back and forth is just telling me, all right, the market's just above $52 right now. I'm looking for, above 53 if I want to sell, and below 51 if I want to buy on the short term. And that's a great product for that. Technology has been great intraday trading. And here with this SM75 product, though, Pete, and you alluded to this a little bit, this has been more of a long-term trade for us, which is to say buying this weaker small stocks product and looking at maybe taking some of that risk off the table of just outright being long the stock market, because we can see it can fall a lot more here with a short position in that Stixx in the long term. So I like trading Stixx on both sides, short-term price action, long-term price action here. I like this SM75 long, and like you said, it's so easy to understand this, under $50 with the shorts and Stixx above $50 here, and looking at that spread, because we have seen more downside in this SM75 product, but today especially some big bounces in SM75 relative to the Stixx. And so what do you think about this this pairs trade right now?
This is what I love about it. We went through a rather disjointed discussion about, okay, if we wanted to add some short equity deltas with other futures. And the challenge is that a pairs traded SPOOs and NASDAQ is roughly $28,000 to do right now. And I've got no interest in putting those outright. So we looked at something in options. There's a difference in liquidity and waiting here. I love this trade because, you know, the SM75 has kind of been a little bit, it's been Russell-esque. It's been a little bit stuck. It's been, the different components have pushed and pulled. Technology has pushed it. Energy has pulled it. It started to kind of get some life back into it, get a lot of life. This spread went from almost zero to out to 370 points, $370 last week. I think this is, out of everything we put together, this is the most interesting trade. I still have this on short Stixx, long SM75. I don't mind working, and I agree with you. Do I want to buy a small 75 up $1.20 right now? I don't know if I want to buy it here, but I still think there's lots of room to be done in correction. And I think this is an easier way to play it for me.
Yeah, and Pete, speaking to that, it's nice to show here the long-term price action and percentage values, but here you can see that spread value being about, like he said, $3 to $4. It's just a matter of, 52.50, let's call it here in Stixx, and 49.50 or 49 even, let's call it in small stock 75. That's that $3.50 difference. That's that spread value. And we looked at this more extensively with about 3 years of data a couple weeks ago, Pete, and we saw that the spread has been as low as negative $11 Stixx on top of SM75, and just as high as about plus $4 or $5. And so you're at that upside extreme of that plus $4 or $5 here at plus 3.5. So yeah, I like that long-term trade. And in the short-term price action opportunities, I like Stixx better than SM75. Just getting on the other side of these dollar plus moves, it's worked out really well recently. As you can see here, the percentage moves, nothing in the last couple of weeks, Pete, no change here in technology, but a lot of day-to-day wiggle. So look at that for short-term price action opportunities. Metals, Pete, this is a market that we loved the short-term price action opportunities in, but now has fallen through the floor here of where it's been holding. It's been holding around $75 to $80. You and I have been on the other side of all of these moves here since the highs of early August. Fallen through the floor down to about $71. Bounce back today to about $73, Pete. What do you like here in terms of price action opportunities? You like shorter term, longer term? Are you looking at long trades, short trades? I would still say from my end, in the short term, I'm ready to get on the other side of, and hopefully you didn't sit through this, $7 down move. We've been advocating for getting on the other side of those dollar plus moves, but you need to cut yourself off at some point. If I'm buying a dollar down move, I'm looking for $50 in profit, or 50 cents if you want to stay in that scenario. 50 cents in profits, 50 cents in losses, and that way you don't sit through. Finally, after a month and a half of great back and forth, the one big outlier move. Short term, I'm still looking for this to be what happens from here on out, getting on the other side of dollar moves. What do you think about the long-term trade here, though, in SPRI?
You know what? We've given back a good chunk of this. There's no reason why we can't, like I said, metals have this, especially when we've had this dramatic upside room, they give back a little bit more than you think is reasonable. Well, we've seen this so often. I think we talked about accepting a new range, and whether that be in silver between $25 and $30 until it changed. Here, I think you've got to accept a new range. And for me, that's 66 to 75, or not to 75, but to 80. So if that's the case, or even 70 here, I'd like to be a buyer here. The buying for me, I was early. I bought 72s before it got down to, I bought 72.60s before it got down to sub 72. I like the longs here at this particular point with SPRI up $1.20. I might take pause to do that. But what again sets up here is I want to trade the range. It's a decent pullback. If you can look at this and say, well, they pull back a lot, but if you're not willing to accept some sort of reasonable range, you can't wait till they get back to 60 and say, I like that. Here, I think we've gotten exactly what we wanted. It fought a little bit. It always takes longer to roll over, but we got a very speedy rollover. I like buying the dips here. And honestly, the next slide we look at, I like that part even more. So when we take and to trade the other side of this. So if you look at the two extremes here, metals getting hit on the downside, dollar getting hit on getting a decent bounce here. The idea of being long some metals and short the dollar here, I think is an interesting trade to me. You can play that on either side. So I kind of like that pairs trade as you're trading, you're trading the extreme on the downside of one and a decent bounce on the other. I think the outright metals are great for me. I think that's a great trade. I don't mind adding this component in here too. We talked about if you still want to be dollar bearish a little bit, you got almost a 4-handle bounce here to do that. So there's lots of setups within here. But for me, the Stixx SM75, great pairs trade, good setup here, even with a little bit of reversion. And this metals index really interesting at these levels. You're going to have to pick what maybe for people who haven't traded, a scalping range that. And I don't consider it aggressively with the pullback, but looking at that cliff and thinking, oh man, I want to see some semblance of somebody else buying it. If you do wait for that, you're probably going to buy it at not the optimal spot. So there's lots to be done here, lots of setups. What are your thoughts on this dollar index here?
No, I would agree with you wholeheartedly, Pete. And just to recap where we're at here, I love getting the historical context and then bringing it to these opportunities by way of price action here. And I love the longer term trade. And by longer term, I'm talking about like 1 week to 3 weeks. That's longer term for me. Right. I like the short Stixx, long SM75, and I like the short SFX, long SPRE trade as well for that 1 to 3 week reversion of what we're seeing here. You see this bounce out of the range here. You see this sell off out of the range here. And so I'm just looking for that in the next 1 to 3 weeks as a long-term positions. But what's great about all four of these products, Pete, on a day-to-day basis, and we saw this in multiple products this morning, is intraday short-term price action opportunities. I'm just looking for a buck on either side of the markets because we aren't seeing, a bounce from 148, the lows here, all the way to 162. We're not seeing a sell-off from the highs here of 85 all the way down to 60. And so that tells me that, yes, we got caught up in some outlier daily moves here and here, but whether it's Stixx, SM75, SPRE, or SFX, on an intraday level, I'm just looking for a dollar plus move, and I'm ready to pull the plug for $50 in profits, $50 in losses. I think the short-term price action is there on both sides for all of these markets.